I spoke with Michel Gabaudan with Refugees International about the problem and possible solutions.
But just assume you lose everything overnight. You lose your house, you lose very often your friends, you lose your sense of security, and for many of them, you lose relatives, children, wife, husband. You have to flee, and all of a sudden what we take for granted, a job, sending your kids to school, having food, having a roof, having some hope for tomorrow, all that is erased in a movement. And you've got to decide, where do I go? So you've suffered what I would call PTSD, if you want. You've suffered the violence. You've suffered the violence meted to your people, but you also lost all your personal chances to build up a life. So whether you are in a camp or whether you're among host communities, you've got to start rebuilding that with the handouts that you get from the international community and the goodwill from the international community. But as long as you live out of handouts, hope is difficult to muster.
You know, it's interesting you say hope is difficult to master. Not too long ago, one of our correspondents in Kenya did a story on the world's largest refugee camp, which is closing, as you know. But he profiled some of the Somalis who'd escaped the violence in that country, had come there hoping at some point to get back to their country, that things would stabilize. Clearly, that hasn't been the case. But they were leaving and kind of at their wits' end about living in a refugee camp. Most of us think that it's kind of a way station till you get to something else. But in many cases, these people live there for a very long time, don't they?
Yeah. When I started many decades ago working with refugees, I think the average time someone would be a refugee was maybe 4 or 5 years. Now it's close to 20. Mm. So what you have in Dadaab, the example you were mentioning, is a third generation of children born in a refugee camp. The camp lives out of some humanitarian aid and with the remittances from people from outside. But very often the people who are there, they seek a better life. Some try to move to Nairobi, to the Kenyan capital. Some try to move abroad. But most of them don't have the means to do that. They are stuck in the camp. I have met in Dadaab young girls, 18 years old, spoke English as I do. They'd never been out of the camp. These were the few that were able to benefit from some education in the camp. You teach them English, and then what? They're going to have their children in the camp and their grandchildren in the camp. This is something we have to strive changing.
And what about hope? It must be difficult to be in your line of work. There must be example after example where it's easy to extinguish hope. What keeps you going?
Well, I think with challenges come despair, but also come opportunities. What we are seeing now is a general recognition that refugees are not a humanitarian issue. You need humanitarian aid to help people in the emergency phase, to help them survive. But you need much more development attention to assist the countries who host them and the refugees to begin a new life. And what we're seeing now is more and more development agencies, the World Bank among others, trying to say, well, maybe this is also part of our job. It's not just for the humanitarians to take care of refugees. If that moves forward, and I say if because it's not yet there, but if that moves forward, I think it will have been a positive outcome of the current crisis.